What's up, friends? Leroy here. Thanks for tuning in. So, something very special has happened today. Something that I legitimately didn't think would happen, at least in my lifetime. For years, people have been speculating whether or not this product would actually come to fruition. I myself, with conversations with colleagues, speculating about whether or not it would happen, how it will be released, and how it may look. However, today I can confirm that this product is in fact a thing. Let's take a look. So this is a fully standalone version of Ableton's push controller that people have come to know and love. Now, quick disclaimer, Ableton did send Noisegate one of these, but they have no say in what happens in this video. I believe there is a tethered version of this as well. It's one that just connects to your laptop, which is not standalone. However, I have the standalone version. And the great takeaway from this is it has an internal battery, which runs for about 2.5 hours kind of ish, which is really awesome because now you can take the studio to the bedroom or to the couch, which is amazing to me. Let's just sort of simmer on that for a little minute. Think of using Ableton's powerful wavetable synthesizer and hybrid reverb effects and many other features, all with no computer attached and just sitting on the couch making beats. Very, very nice. And that's not even going into the realm of what this can actually achieve for people performing on stage in a live situation. People like me, I use a lot of hardware synthesizers and drum machines, so this is going to nestle nicely into my studio setup. More on that later. So let's just take a breakdown of kind of what we've got here. For people who are familiar with Push 2, there's a lot of similarities here. The pads are very much the same. However, we have this kind of white backdrop that sits underneath the pads, which is slightly different from Push 2. The screen itself retains a lot of similarities, but I can see that you're looking straight at these guys here. We have a kind of like a joystick, I suppose, would be the, weird basic way of saying it. We can use it to scroll and we can use it to navigate around. I'll show you how that works in a second. We've got a dedicated volume button for your main outputs, and we've got this other button here for your tempo. So one of the big things with this is a lot of the connections that we have on the back. We've obviously got our power supply, USB-C, MIDI in and out, and we have pedal inputs and headphones, which is really awesome. It has a built-in audio interface. But one of the big things is we have 2 audio line inputs for sending signals in, line outputs. But the huge thing here is we have ADAT in and out. This gives you a whole lot of possibilities for expanding your audio inputs and audio outputs with appropriate ADAT compatible devices. That's a huge feature which you don't see on many products, groove boxes, the like out there. So that's a huge thing for a lot of people. I know that I'll certainly be looking to implement that into my own workflow as well. Back to the front, we can just kind of have a bit of a breakdown of what all these buttons do. So we have the project button here. So this allows us to navigate between any projects or Ableton live sets that we have installed. And to install them, we actually have a 250 gigabyte internal hard drive, as well as 8 gigabytes of RAM to really power all this too. The setup button, this allows us to kind of, customize all of our preferences. It gives us your status, your battery power, all of the things that you need to kind of customize it to your liking. Expression, so MPE is a huge feature that builds upon the Push 2 with the Push standalone, and you can really customize your pressure and your slide types here, and you can change the MPE to poly or to mono after touch too. So a lot of the live devices have been upgraded to be responsive to MPE, so there's a lot of power now that you can do with expressivity with MPE. Again, we've got sensitivity envelopes, changing your sample rates, audio input selection, MIDI, pedals with the CV, connecting to Wi-Fi for registration. This is really good as well because you can download a lot of your available Ableton packs into Push as well. So there's a lot of extra ability to incorporate your samples from Ableton Live packs. Wi-Fi is also a really important feature for Ableton Link. So if you want to incorporate this into other studios and collaborate with musicians, have it all clocked together nicely in time, absolutely winner. Software updates in the software tab. I'm using the most available version of this. No doubt there will be more to come. So what have we got here? We have some mutes and solos for your pad view. Up along the top, we have device view. This is for your mixer view, clip view, and session view, which is really nice because we can use the encoder to navigate between channels, and we can select different scenes and clips, which is really nice touch. Previously, we just had the session button before where we could see any available clip that was present and trigger them via the scenes. But now we have this to give us a much more kind of like visual overview of what's going on with the session view, which is really nice because it's one of the really powerful things about the software is the session view, and something that you get a really good high level view of what's happening in your projects. The knob itself feels really good. It has a really nice satisfying click to it. It moves side to side and you can use it to scroll up and down. It's also really useful for navigating between all of your devices or creating MIDI tracks. So if we can use it to click to select a selection and navigate between all of our different sounds that come built into Ableton. And you can see how responsive it is. It's really fluid. It has a nice satisfying click to it, and it's really responsive. If I just go here and load up, say, a wavetable instrument, I can turn the preview on, click to go through the categories. I haven't got it connected to an audio output yet, so you can't hear it. We'll get there in a second. Load a device, and there we go. So this is our macro view, so we can see all of our parameters. Very similar to Push 2 and how that works, so it's quite a familiar workflow already, I can see, and a lot of people will be very appreciative of that. But let's just take a minute here to recognize that we're using this completely standalone. No computer, it's all inside the box. This is our mixer view with our volumes, pans, sends, all that kind of good stuff. This is our clip view, so when we have a clip present with MIDI information, that will show up, and then back to our session. Down here we have a couple of added things. We have the tempo button, a long press, the metronome button. Long press will show you, all the different settings for your metronome. Quantizing, long press gives you all of the information that you need for, your quantization. Fixed length button, that will be how long your clip will be by default for recording. Automation, you can turn on automate for automating your clips, as well as the capture button. The capture button is a really cool a button which allows you to kind of just it basically means that Push is kind of always listening, and if you kind of are just noodling around with the pads and come up with an arrangement that you think is pretty cool, you can just press the capture button and it will just automatically slot that into a clip for you. So just in case you forget to press the record button. So it's a really nice, handy feature. And it's good to see Ableton incorporate that more into their hardware to make more use of that feature. I feel like with Ableton Live, it could be a little bit underlooked or underutilized because it's right up there in the transport bar and it can be kind of, sometimes you can forget about using it. Play, record, blah, blah, all that good stuff. Repeat, so this is all very familiar. Duplicate, delete, all these kind of like utilitarian buttons that you need for navigating between your sections. What I really like to see though is the hot swap button. So in Live, if you load a device and you want to swap out a preset or a patch or an entire instrument without deleting the whole channel or the whole effects chain, you can just quickly press the hot swap button and it will just take you automatically to wherever you are. So if we have an instrument here, and we just go hot swap, it'll just take us to the bass category of the wavetable presets, and I can just quickly navigate between different presets and then just click and load. So it's a really speedy workflow kind of thing, and particularly when you don't have a mouse, which is what you would probably be accustomed to using when you're using Ableton Live. It's one of those things that makes this whole process really nice and fluid, which is one of the reasons why I love Push so much and why I've been using it for so long. It's because it's really nice to just use to quickly navigate between sounds. So there's obviously so many features that can be utilized here. I haven't even begun to talk about sampling and all that kind of thing. It's probably best to load up some sounds and let's have a bit of a jam. All right, here we go, all set up. I'm kind of going for a bit of a Todd Terry, Armand Van Helden classic kind of house vibe today. Sounds like this. So let's just kind of like break it down track by track. So first of all, you notice I've got the microcog here, and I wanted to show you this because it kind of makes use of the audio interface. So what I'm doing is I'm using an external instrument device to send MIDI out of the MIDI output here to trigger the instrument out of channel 1, and I'm receiving its audio via the audio input on the first channel. So you can see when I go to the mixer stage. So that's a really nice touch. It's really great to be able to do those kinds of things. So theoretically, you could send MIDI out of this to a MIDI splitter and send that MIDI to multiple points, multiple stages of instruments, and be able to kind of really incorporate it into your instruments. But also why that's cool is I can also add effects to the instrument. So you can see here on the microcord, I've got a saturator, and I have an auto filter too. So it's really nice to be able to do those kinds of things too. Plus, if I go to the mixer stage, I can go to sends and send delays. And this is all processing in real time. So you can see how fluid it is, all standalone. This is a really great workflow. Moving along, I've got a hi-hat loop here. And if I go to the, if I navigate through Ableton Live, I can go to a lot of the different sounds and samples. There's a sample page here. Lots of different loops that you can load yourself as well. And the cool thing about this is you can assign them to your collections category, and you can use this knob to change the collection, which is really great for being able to recall some of your favorite instrument loops, instruments, presets, effects, and they are navigated, they are all found in the collections folder, and you can just sort of cycle between all of those there. So, you know, if you find yourself using a compressor and a reverb and this particular bass patch, it's really nice to be able to recall them frequently there. This is being warped through an instance of Simpler. I've got no effects really on this at the moment, but you can see the workflow is very much the same. Click on that and I can access all of the parameters inside of Simpler, from warping to envelopes to filters to LFOs, all that really good stuff. And the clip button is here. Oops, I'll just Turn that off. You know what I'll do? I'll use the S button here, this solo, to solo this. Press the clip. And this just shows me a MIDI event, which is triggering this loop. I haven't really done anything too fancy to it. It's more or less just playing a loop that's laid underneath the rest of the track. Move on to the kick. All right, cool. So we can see this is the MIDI event for the clip in the kick. And what's cool is I can actually use the encoder here to cycle between different MIDI events. If I click, I can select multiples. And then I can do a whole range of things. I can press the edit button over here and I can shift events around. In fact, that might be best demonstrated by going to the drum rack here. Yep, this is where I have some 909 sounds. Sounds like this. All right, so the kick is on a different event. The kick is on a different track. And I can use the encoder to cycle through all of these and kind of like, you know, select an individual event. I can change the length of it. I can change the velocity level of it. I can change the velocity range. I can change the probability. So the probability in which a sound will trigger over here. And then I can click and select multiple events as well. So, you know, again, another one of those workflow things that's really useful to have, particularly because there's no mouse. You can't sort of just select a whole region of MIDI notes within a clip and kind of move them around like this. So yeah, that's a really nice touch. And then I can click done, and then I can actually change the loop or clip length here. So a lot of this you'll probably know if you're already a Push 2 user, that this is quite familiar to you, which is nice because we don't want to have a whole, you know, drastic change of, you know, different, you know, workflow. It's good to have a lot of that familiarity there. Moving on to this sound. So this is where Push really excels with its MPE capability. MPE means you basically have at your fingertips a whole new level of expression, more than just velocity. You have pitch, you have slide, you have glide, and a lot of those actions are mapped to different parameters within an instrument. So you see when I slide my fingers from slide to side, slide to slide, side to side, I'm kind of changing or augmenting the pitch of this. We open up the instrument. This is a wavetable device. You can see that motion is changing the filter response. Let's check out some more of these. So if I go to the hot swap button, go to wavetable, let's go to, there's actually a category for MPE sounds, which is here. I'm gonna find the one. This one's cool. I'll load this one up. This is really awesome. Basically means that each individual note receives its own MIDI signal, which modulates that sound on its own independent way. So the pressure is modulating a filter, but each note modulates the filter independently. Hence the polyphonic expression. If we open up the instrument, you can see that the pressure is modulating the filter and the wavetable position, which really gives you that extra, really interesting effect. Cool, moving on, I've got this little sound, which is just another instance of wavetable. And we've got the octave buttons. And with all your usual suspects like the macro buttons, you get 8 available macros, and you can, open up the instrument as you normally would, cycle through it, dive deep into the rack. Here we have a delay and MPE control as well. One of the things I really like about this is the ability to see your clips in your session view, and using the encoder to navigate between all of your individual clips and sort of cycle between all the individual scenes. And say, if I have like a whole bunch of clips here, you can see how impressive it looks and also how comprehensive it is to be able to navigate between all of these individual clip slots and trigger them via the scenes and the clip slot function. If you want to stop a clip, you can just go to an empty clip slot, hit the encoder, and it will stop that clip for you as well. So for something a bit more contrasting, I went for a bit of a two-step vibe with this, and the microcorg's not being used at all in this situation. It's just all sounds from the push. I can go and navigate to the drum rack here. So I've got some really harsh kind of like subby kick sounds and snappy snares, and that is from just in the drum category and the garage kit, and I added that to one of my favorites because I'm probably going to come back to that quite often. And here I created a drum rack as well, and this is just all full of random effects. So this isn't actually a preset. These sounds here are built entirely from effects, samples, and one-shots from Ableton's core library, and I've just put them in my own drum rack and just sequenced them independently. And I feel like we all need to relish in the fact that there is no computer here. These are all really powerful sounds from Push, completely standalone. I think I've used this full Lotus kit quite a few times to do demos on Ableton Push just because it sounds so good, and I love like the macro buttons that assign straight to this echo device. Or echo. I was really having a good time with this MPE instrument. There we Maybe up an octave. Being able to change the way the characteristic of that sound just through your expression in the pads, plus modulating something like the filter, is something really amazing. And it reminds me of how powerful this is because I'm using this completely standalone. So I've only just scratched the surface here. Now it should be said that all projects that you create on standalone push can be transferred to your computer and vice versa. Plus it becomes a controller for Ableton Live. So you really do get the best of both worlds of using the hardware standalone version with all the sounds and MPE, plus using it to control your Ableton Live software. So it's really a great option for that. I'm going to leave you now with a video of how I use this in my own studio. This is going to become the centerpiece of my setup. It'll be a really powerful sequencer, sampler, and synthesizer. It's pretty amazing to use. So stay tuned for more videos to come, and we'll see you next time. And big shout out to Ableton for the preview.